In the words of the great Kevin McAllister, this is it. Don't get scared now. Super Bowl 58 kicking off in 10 and a half hours from now. Kansas City looking to become the first back-to-back champions since Julian's Patriots 2 decades ago. On the other side, the 49ers aiming to balance the scale after losing Super Bowl 54 to the Chiefs just 4 seasons ago. Julian Edlow, I am Emerson Latzia. You're watching this DraftKings baby we call The Sweats, live in our Boston studio. Josh Applebaum, Steve Buchanan live in our Las Vegas Circus studios. Gentlemen, how's everyone feeling? Steve, how you doing after hanging out with Lil Wayne last night, huh?
So hungover. Look at him.
Yeah, it's hungover, no. Extremely tired, yes. Don't get those conflicted. But, yeah, touching down in Boston later today. Looking forward to that.
It's a very nice excuse, Steve. That's like the Family Guy episode where they tell Peter he's hungover. He's like, I'm not hungover. I'm just tired from drinking all night with my friends.
Or as my mom used to say, no, I just had some bad ice. No, it's all good. Hey, Josh, Super Bowl tickets are only like, I think around $9,000 right now. Jules says they're dropping, so you're going to be hanging out there for the game tonight?
I will not be hanging out for the game, boys. I actually have a big dilemma today. My plane is at 9:45 p.m. Pacific time, so that means do I risk like trying to watch the whole game at the Resorts World and maybe be in a cab or a taxi or Uber like with the final 3 minutes, or do I get to the airport like insanely early, like 7 hours early, and watch the Super Bowl in the airport? So I don't know if you guys have any suggestions, but I'm open to whatever you think I should do.
Okay, you don't want to hear what I think, but maybe Jules has some advice.
I mean, I've never heard a story of anybody watching the Super Bowl like at the airport itself.
Yeah,
I believe they have TVs, though. I mean, the game must be on somewhere, right?
I'm sure you can find a bar and watch it there. I've just never heard of that before.
Well,
you could be the first. Go for it.
Absolutely. Well, listen, wherever the folks watching right now decide to watch the Super Bowl tonight, hopefully you have access to the DraftKings Sportsbook because you can bet anything and everything, it feels like, for Super Bowl 58 tonight. And gentlemen, as we start with some game bets here, Bukes, I believe a lot of you yesterday on this show, on a Saturday morning edition of The Sweat, were really kind of feeling the under. You weren't quite feeling a boatload of points in this game, despite the over being 7-4 in the last 11 Super Bowls with the spread of 3 or less. Are you sticking with that right now, Bukes?
No, 100%. This is like my most convicted play when it comes to one of these game bets that you can make here. Obviously, the spread's been bouncing around a little bit. We could end up seeing 2.5 by the time kickoff comes around with the way that the money has been coming in. But I do feel very strongly about taking the under in this game, especially when you look at what Kansas City has done all throughout the year. They have not been a team that's been hitting the over at all. When you look at their under record for the year, they're 14-6 to the under so far during the regular season and the postseason thus far. And they've been good defensively too as well. Like if you look at some of the recent plays from Brock Purdy in these playoffs here, like really hasn't done a lot of damage through the air. Only 2 passing touchdowns combined in those 2 games against Detroit and the Packers. And the Chiefs have been so good at limiting those passing touchdowns all throughout the season as well. So this just feels like a game that's going to be under to me. You could run the ball on both sides. They're going to want to run the ball on both sides with McCaffrey and on Pacheco, who's been so good. And the 49ers have been so bad against the run. Over 300 rushing yards allowed in those 2 playoff games that they had 5 rushing touchdowns allowed. I think we're going to see a lot of running in this game. Under 47.5 is my biggest play here when it comes to the game bets.
Okay, Josh, could you convince yourself here to take the over? These teams have combined for 50-plus points in all 3 meetings during the Mahomes era.
Emerson, do they have the potential to go over? I think obviously they do. You know, obviously you look at the defense of the 49ers. They've been gassed throughout the postseason. KC, even though we don't think of them as the high-flying offense of years past, they can put up points when they need to. But I'm kind of with Steve here. I'm going under or nothing. To me, it's either you take the under or you pass. Because let's look at what the data is kind of showing us. Right now, we have 64% of bets going over. We were sitting at 47.5 pretty much all week. One thing I noticed, guys, was yesterday you did have at least 2 books across the market get to 48 and then immediately come back down to 47.5. So I'm looking at line movement in terms of not only which direction you go, but how long you stay at a number and then when it comes back. So the fact that it came back down very quickly to 47.5 tells me that 48 number was probably the best if you're going to go under. Now, you look at Kansas City. Steve mentioned it, 14-6 to the under, 70%. I think if you're worried about maybe, getting really close to this number and you want to give yourself some security, I think it's a great teaser play to take Kansas City +2 to +8, go through some key numbers and give yourself some more wiggle room with the total. You could take that 47.5 up to under 53.5. And guys, breaking news, no Kadarius Toney today. So that's great news for Chiefs backers.
Yeah, for real, it really is.
Thank God.
Yeah, great news for the 49ers as well. Okay, so Jules, this is a clean sweep with the under here.
Yeah, I like under. The guys talked about it. The resistance at 48. As soon as those 48s pop, they come right back down. I do like the under. The way that Kansas City plays, the way they've been running the ball, the way they've been playing defense, they've been an under team. Steve laid it out, and you go to the Niners side, I expect them to be running the ball as well. I expect Brock Purdy to potentially, have some nerves in a game like this. We have all the points that they've been scoring on, somewhat fluky plays to get to their big totals. The Ayuk catch off the face mask, big chunk plays to gain yardage and put points on the board in some of those games. And Kadarius Toney isn't playing, so he's not going to drop a ball that goes the other way for a pick six. That's nice too.
Okay, but couldn't this also be, aren't we in like a position here where maybe with as good as these defenses are, Jules, like we hit one big offensive play to kind of turn the tide in favor of the over, and maybe even a defensive score here, especially in Brock Purdy's first Super Bowl start?
I could see maybe some early scoring, not necessarily like if you're a first 5-minute better, not then, but like look at the Kansas City-Baltimore game. After the first quarter, that live total was high 40s, low 50s. And that was a game that closed in the low 40s and easily stayed under. They wound up grinding the clock. Kansas City's defense stepped up. And that was in a game where the Ravens, the running backs combined for 5 carries? Jackson added another few, but like the Ravens didn't even run the ball. They passed all game and it still went under. Kansas City did what they have done. Great pass defense, running the ball. So I think that there's a script here that, we get off to a 10-7 start in the first quarter or something, and the game still winds up going under.
Yeah, because in terms of other like game props here, Steve, maybe you don't like the over for the game. Maybe you like the over, let's say, for the first half. If both these teams want to get off to like a strong start tonight, expect them to mix in a bag of like, big plays here, opening up the running game, that kind of stuff, Steve. Would you look for maybe like a first half over?
So there's actually one thing that they have that you can take, which is both teams to score one rushing touchdown in this game. You're getting at plus 120 for this one here. I feel like that's a really strong play here with the way that these teams have been operating on the ground. Like, we were mentioning how good Pacheco has been on the ground and how poorly the 49ers run defense has been. Then, of course, Christian McCaffrey, who has some of the most ridiculous odds to score an anytime touchdown. Obviously, they're going to try to run the ball with him if they get into the red zone. So getting that type of play at plus 120 feels like a really strong play to me here too, because we mentioned how much Pacheco has been running. He's averaging over 21 carries so far in these playoffs. Like he's had at least 15 carries in every game he's been active since week 10 so far this year. So this just feels like a really strong play to me with how much these teams want to go on the ground here, and I think especially too for the 49ers, try to keep Mahomes off the field. So give me that play. Both teams will score one rushing touchdown in this game at plus 120.
Josh, you have another worthwhile game bet to consider here?
Yes, I'll give you two here, Emerson. One would be just first quarter scoring. I think there could be a situation where maybe you get off to some scoring early and then you settle down, you play more defense, you kind of get into the groove of the game. Look at the first quarter total. It's 8.5 over, juiced up over. Some are 9.5. I mean, shop around because obviously there are different prices out there. But can you get a touchdown and a field goal? To me, an 8.5 over, you get 3 field goals here. You can go over. I think that's a bettable number. And then also one play that I talked about yesterday. One thing, guys, I'm looking at today is screenshotting all the odds from yesterday and looking at where they moved today, because late movement, obviously Super Bowl or any game, is so critical. But the longest kickoff return, under 27.5 yards. Yesterday it was minus 145 to the under. I woke up today, it's minus 170 to the under. So that late movement is super important to me because it tells me that when limits are raised and big bets come in, it can either validate a play that you like before, or maybe it goes the other way and you get a little nervous. For this one, it makes me more excited because the juice is rising on that under 27.5. Again, it's an indoor game with a lot of kickoffs, touchbacks potentially, 2 kickers with big legs here, and pretty good special teams. So I like the fact that the juice to the longest kickoff return under has risen, and I'm going under 27.5.
Okay, Jules, what movement are you seeing with some potential game bets on your betting card?
I mean, props-wise, these guys highlighted a lot of them. I think the long drive one was interesting that I talked to Johnny Avello about this week. People are betting the long drive over. That was 76.5 yards, and I clarified with him, does not have to be a touchdown drive or a scoring drive. If the Chiefs were to go from the 10-yard line to the opposing 10-yard line and then fumble or have a kick blocked or whatever, that's an 80-yard drive. That counts. That's a popular one that I think some money is coming in on. And then we're going to see the player prop overs, I would assume, take some money. So, like, Kelsey's back down to 69.5, which kind of surprises me. That shows, I think, what books are thinking there, because he's going to be a very popular over this week, not just due to matchup, but the Taylor Swift effect. So the fact that has come down kind of shows that books are thinking that maybe he doesn't have the best game. I tend to disagree. I like the over. I like the matchup. I like Kelsey in the playoffs. He's gone for 70-plus yards in 12 straight postseason games, and we saw what they put on tape against Baltimore. But I think it's interesting that has come down when it was at 70.5.
And Steve, her plane safely landed at LAX yesterday. I think you were onto something when you mentioned the private plane area there in Vegas is full.
She found a loophole.
She did, Steve. She'll be
Steve
driving
fell
over.
asleep.
Get excited, big man.
Let's go to commercial.
We will. It's time to take a break. On the other side, we're going to dive into player props. Christian McCaffrey, the most bet touchdown scorer tonight. We're talking about it, so let's be about it next. How about this? Last year's Super Bowl was watched by a record 150 15 million people. So that's roughly 1/3 of the U.S. population, Julian. And with the NFL setting viewership highs throughout the playoffs, Taylor Swift's going to give everybody a bump in viewership tonight, no doubt about it. All signs pointing to this year's game being the most watched ever. By the way, while you're on the couch, mashing your weight in guacamole tonight, you need to fire up the DraftKings Sportsbook here, because right now we're dishing out a VSiN exclusive offer for new DraftKings customers. So you're going to earn a $500 bonus bet for every $1,000 you bet, up to $2,500. Just make sure you use the promo code VSiN when you sign up. You earn a $500 bonus bet for every $1,000 you bet. Right, meow. That's a hell of an offer right there. And Julian, you'd have that $1,000 to bet if Kentucky actually came through for you yesterday on your biggest college basketball bet of the year.
Gotta own your L's.
Yeah, you really do, which
I'll
you
be back
do.
and better than ever.
That's right. After your 300 Super Bowl bets today. Maybe you
I'm on the grind. We're gonna get back.
Maybe you folks
Slow and
at home, maybe you folks at home like taking advantage of that offer. Maybe you feel like doing so by targeting player props. Maybe you feel like doing so by targeting player props like quarterbacks, like Brock Starr and Patty Mayonnaise here. Which one would you recommend the people look at, Steve? You still targeting the Patrick Mahomes rushing prop?
Yeah, passing and rushing combined. You're getting that couple yards lower than when we talked about this yesterday. So it's at 291 and a half now. I was kind of going over this yesterday and a little bit here already this morning, just how much the 49ers have been giving up on the ground. And Mahomes has been willing to run, especially in these playoffs so far. Like if you look at his numbers on the ground in the first few games here, he's taken 14 carries in these playoffs so far, 41 yards, 19 yards, and 15 yards. And then just the passing of Mahomes as well. It hasn't been like those dynamic, 300-yard Patrick Mahomes games, but we're in the 240s, 260 ranges in two of those three games so far in these playoffs. Just feel like this is a good spot here too as well. And again, Chiefs right now are the underdogs in this one. I do like them to win, but they are slated as the underdogs in this game. I think that Mahomes is going to be using his legs a lot in this game as well. I'm sure Julian will talk about his rushing yards that we both like as well, but I think getting those passing and rushing yards combined, 291 and a half. I feel like that's a good number here today.
Is that true? Do you want to talk about it?
Somewhat. I'm split here with Steve. What I do like is Mahomes' long carry, over 12 and a half yards. You might remember the Super Bowl 4 years ago against San Francisco. He was well over his rushing yard prop when we had one of the all-time player prop bad beats in Super Bowl history. Mahomes was running backwards on those kneels because there was a little extra time on the clock, lost like 15 yards on kneel downs. Went under his rushing prop after going well under, but he broke off the long carry. On the long carry since that 2020 postseason when they went to the Super Bowl against the Niners, Mahomes is 9-6 to the over on that. He's 2-1 to the over in this postseason. The under was 11, so he was almost there. He generally breaks off a run in that range. So I do like that. I lean under on Mahomes passing. He's pretty consistently been going under. He's gone under in the last two postseason games. The one that he went over against Miami was 262, so he went over by the hook if we're using the number 261 and a half that it's at now. He's stayed under 261 and a half in 8 of his last 12 games. So despite the Chiefs winning, they're not doing it with a ton of yardage from Mahomes. I like Kansas City in the game. I don't know if I can stomach betting the best player on the field passing yards under for the team that I'm backing, but if you made me bet the Mahomes passing yards, I would go under on it.
Okay. He hasn't thrown an interception, too, I believe, since Christmas. Meanwhile, on the other side, Josh, Brock Purdy over half an interception is one of the most popular passing props of Super Bowl 58, dude.
Yeah, that could be worth a look. And obviously, we talked about the rushing prop for Purdy as well, 11.5, getting bet up to 12.5. But I'm going to go back to Mahomes here, guys. I'm going to disagree with Julian. I'm going to go over on Mahomes passing yards.
We like to.
Yeah, it was 260.5 yesterday. And again, I kind of stressed the importance of late movement here. Obviously, you want to get the best number, but you also want to know that you're on the sharp side, that the line is moving in your direction. So Mahomes went to bed last night, 260.5. You wake up today, 261.5. Tells us late money is coming in that Mahomes over. I like it because it's kind of fishy. He's only gone over this number one time, and it was against the Dolphins, and he barely went over. It was 262. But if you remember, the 2 games he went under, Baltimore, Buffalo, both outside, both weather games here with a lot of elements at play. You're not going to have to worry about that today because you're at Allegiant Stadium. You're in the Dome. This is a stadium that Mahomes has played in quite a bit with the Raiders in the division. Also, this was a quote from Jeff Darlington of ESPN that came out today. maybe it's just, window dressing here, but he said, quote, "All I keep hearing, Mahomes looks even more dialed in than usual this week." Now, maybe that's just propaganda, but it tells me that, hey, he's dialed in and getting ready to play hopefully one of the best games of his career. And then again, you look at San Fran, they gave up 273 to Goff. I mean, Mahomes is far better than Goff. I think he can easily go over this number, and I think it's addition by subtraction by getting rid of Tony and not playing in this game, and then adding Jerick McKinnon, who's a guy who's very reliable out of the backfield. Maybe he adds a few yards to Mahomes' total. So I'm going to go over 261.5 for Mahomes passing.
I just want to bring up something, too, about the interceptions for Purdy. This was close to even money when this first opened. It's up to minus 135 for the over on his half interception here. The majority of his interceptions that he's thrown this year have come in losses. 9 of the 12 interceptions that he's thrown have come in games where the 49ers lost. He did have one in that last game against the Lions, and that was when they were playing from behind as well. And that's one of the biggest reasons why I like the Chiefs, because I just feel like the 49ers offense is just completely different when they're playing from behind here. But getting that Purdy interception, seeing how much it's moved, I like that way back when it was almost even money at this point. But just now get minus 135 feels like a lot of people are getting on that bet.
Emerson mentioned the Patrick Mahomes yes/no interception prop. It's minus 120, yes. Minus 110, no. He hasn't thrown an interception this postseason. He didn't throw an interception last postseason. The no on Mahomes' interception is 13-4 in his postseason career. I know we're going up against a good Niners defense here, but has it been that good in the postseason? I would bet no on the Mahomes interception as my favorite interception prop, even more than Purdy to throw one.
And his running back and then Christian McCaffrey on the other side for the 49ers, two very highly bet guys in the props department as well, Josh. I mentioned going into break, Christian McCaffrey, the highest bet touchdown score on DraftKings Sportsbook right now. Is he on your betting card anywhere, or are you like a lot of other people and you're really feeling the Pacheco side?
I'll lean more to Pacheco. I mean, McCaffrey, I think he did tick up 89.5 rushing yards to 90.5, so a late movement is going McCaffrey. Anytime TD, it's such a big minus number. I don't really see the value in laying it. If anything, maybe you get a better price by having bet 2 TDs for McCaffrey. But Pacheco, to me, is the way to go. And this is one of those buy low opportunities, Steve, because we were looking at it earlier, but he's down to 66.5. I mean, he was 68.5 a day ago, 2 days ago. So on the one hand, you say, hey, there's some under money coming in on Pacheco to go under rushing total. But you can look at it another way and say, hey, we're getting a buy low, low watermark number here to go over with Pacheco. And this is something that wise guys love to do. They love to see whatever the prop is, have it move as much as it can, and then go the other way at the best possible number. But Pacheco's gone over this number in every single postseason game. He had 68 against Baltimore. He had 97 against Buffalo. He had 89 against Miami. Remember, San Fran got gashed by the Lions and the Packers. They gave up 136 to Green Bay. Aaron Jones lit them up. 182 to Detroit. Montgomery and Gibbs lit them up. And Pacheco in particular, guys, is a guy that just runs so tough, so hard, so violent. You got to think that the 2-week break here has been really, really big for him, because he had toe injuries, shoulder, knee. I don't know what it was. He had a ton of injuries, but those 2 weeks for a young player who's banged up, I think could be very, very important. I would buy low and go Pacheco over 66.5 rushing yards.
Yeah, and Steve, he's also rushed for an average of 21 times per game in the postseason. That's the most of all playoff running backs, dude.
No, they've been more than willing to give him the ball, and I talked about this yesterday, but, getting a little bit of a better number here. I've liked him to go over his rushing yards to begin with. Now you're getting that tick down to 66.5, but again, pairing his rushing yards with an anytime touchdown score, you're getting that at plus 204. I feel like that's a play that is very in play here for this game, because I like the rushing props. I mentioned the 49ers have been getting absolutely gashed on the ground in those 2 games, 5 rushing touchdowns allowed to opposing running backs in the 2 playoff games that we've seen. So getting that at plus 204 feels like a really strong play. I'm honestly shocked that this number has been coming down. I fully expected by the time that kickoff was here that this was going to be at least in the 70s. I really don't know what the reason is for this coming down, as I think this is probably the best matchup he's had in the playoffs thus far, because the 49ers cannot stop the run at this point. So give me that at plus 204, combining those 2 plays together.
I mean, at this point, too, there's not a whole lot of value when you're looking at Christian McCaffrey props here.
Well, McCaffrey's going to be a huge part of San Francisco's game plan, I would assume.
He has
how
to
much
be.
do they want to? Well, yes, obviously, but more so than usual, because how much can you put? They've been forced to put the ball in Purdy's hands 2 straight weeks in comebacks, 2 straight games. So the 49ers are favored if they can get out to a lead in this one, or if they can, play from behind with the run, as we've seen. Like the Green Bay game, they were very stubborn, Shanahan, and kept running the ball with McCaffrey even when trailing. So against a good Detroit defense, stubborn, run the ball, take it out of Purdy's hands. So, I think there's something to McCaffrey's rushing prop, but I agree with the guys. Pacheco's my favorite. Niners giving up 159 rushing yards per game on the ground. Starting running backs have gone well over this prop in each. Pacheco's averaging 84 yards per game on the ground in the postseason. There's a lot to like there.
All right, we'll tackle some pass catcher props and others on the DK Sportsbook coming up. So I'm not superstitious, but I am a little stitious. Steve's going to take us behind the scenes after this break in Vegas to reveal some of the most ridiculous betting superstitions around Sin City. This year is going to be insane. A record 68 million U.S. adults expected to wager over $23 billion on today's game. Super Bowl 58 there in Las Vegas. That's per the American Gaming Association, everybody. And hopefully you're spending all of that money on DraftKings Sportsbook. And here on The Sweat, every weekend, we really try to take the luck out of it and give you the best bets to cash all of those tickets. But in Vegas, sometimes it doesn't really hurt to have Lady Luck on your side. So Steve, a huge believer in superstitions, got to the bottom of which ones work, yes, and which ones do not.
Common superstitions I see in football, a lot of it involves food. Guys would tape their hands the same way, socks on a certain way. A lot of them would go to the same trainer, which sock goes on first. I could only play well if I puked before a game.
Here at Circa in Las Vegas, one of the superstitions is not going to the casino through the main entrance. We're gonna roll the dice, take a chance, and hear from one of Vegas veterans about some of the other superstitions you'll see here on the casino floor.
The classics, hit on 16, stand on 16, but then the simple stuff, which seat they sit at a table, which door they walk into.
If you go through the side entrance, it might take you a little bit longer. And so if you have to use the facilities and you hadn't used them in a while, that could be really bad luck.
So what should you do? Follow suit and blow on the dice before you roll them, avoid counting your money at the table, or go with your heart and play a number that hits close to home.
When you're playing roulette, bet your mother's birthday.
Everybody has this perception about 13 being a bad number, and they've used it in movies, Friday the 13th. But there's also another number out there that's a superstitious number, and that's the number 4. You'll also go into some hotels and not see the number 4 on the elevators.
If numbers aren't your thing, Vegas has you covered. Playing the slots can be a good time, but picking the right one has its complications.
When you're talking about slot machines, it's really individual. I have seen people talk to them. I have seen people tap the sides of them.
While Vegas is a place to celebrate, there's definitely one thing you don't want to do.
The biggest one when you're talking about craps, if there's a shooter, and especially if he's on a run, he's got that sizz going, somebody buys in during his roll,
I had this boss who, when the dice were so-called hot, he would go to the podium and he would change his shoes. If he's going to continue to change his shoes, at some point he's going to change his underwear.
And to double down on that, never enter the casino with one of these.
Customers do not want $50 bills. Something back in the mob days where the mob would put the $50 bill in people's pocket before they laid them away. The $50 bill's a no-no.
Now that you have the right bills, let's talk dress, specifically colors, and why seeing red may not be a bad thing after all.
red is very, very popular. It's considered a lucky color.
I think when red really matters is in a bullfight match, when you need to get the bull really mad.
It seems like the best advice from the Vegas pros is to forget the superstitions, have a plan, stick to it.
As far as these superstitions out there, the ones that I truly, truly believe in are 0.
All right, Steve, like, what are you seeing? What are you guys seeing as, like, you're walking around the floor, the casino floors out there? Are you seeing people get a little weird with some superstitions out there?
I mean, the slot crazy people are insane.
That's you.
And that's
that is
you.
No. They take that to a whole different level. Like they were saying that like people like talk to the slot machines and everything. I've seen people like talking, like doing things that you would not normally see in a public forum doing to the slot machines. Like it's absolutely wild. But especially this week in particular, there's been some wild slot hooligans, I guess you could say, out on the casino floor.
Yeah, Josh, the gambling realm is just rich with fascinating stories and superstitions that go beyond just the bets placed here. I know you said you ran into our friend Samir, whose superstition is like when he goes cold at the slot machine, he takes his shirt off.
Yeah, I think this is one of the most interesting things when it comes to sports betting because, me personally, I try to stick to the data, but there's a whole other side of betting where it's, how can you influence the game? And my wife always tells me, like, you have no influence on the game. Anything you do is not going to have any effect whatsoever. But the funny thing is, if you do something and it wins, Who's to say you didn't have an influence? Obviously, you probably don't. But my whole point being, whatever works for you, I'm not going to knock it. If you want to wear the same T-shirt, the same boxers as your last winner, that's fine with me. But also, guys, Silver Linings Playbook, one of my favorite movies, like lining up the remote, north, south, in the same direction. To me, that's kind of a cool thing. And then also, when I sweat a big game, I turn my phone completely off. I don't want my group chat, my boys from high school blowing me up, or we have a good bet and they tell me something good's happening or something bad's happening. So I like to completely I'll have my live odds page and look at the live lines, but I don't want any connection from the outside world. I just want to sweat my game and not have any distractions.
Did Julian have his phone off yesterday? I'd love to know that, actually.
I don't know.
No,
a lot of notifications there.
Because as I was texting him throughout the Kentucky game, he was threatening to murder me.
That's true. My only superstition is, Emerson, don't text me good luck when I'm trying to watch a game, or I love you, bro. That's the only thing I don't want. And yes, I was on my phone mashing away at Kentucky live lines trying to get some money back, plus 5.5.
I mean, when you're out there in Vegas and you're standing either a slot machine or any of these tables, what are you doing? Or you in your own head? Because I know in some cultures it's believed that don't cross your legs. Okay, so if you cross one's legs, it crosses out one's good luck or disrupts the flow of positive energy, man. So you've
never heard of that.
I don't
really. You've never heard that, bud? I don't cross my leg during this show because I don't want it to crush the good luck.
Yeah, I'm sure that's exactly it.
I don't cross my legs during the show either because I don't find that a comfortable way to sit. I don't play slots. Slots are for suckers like Steve. And I have no superstitions because superstitions don't affect the outcome of games. No matter what you're doing, no matter what way the remote is facing, it's not going to change anything. So take all that energy, focus it on your process, become a better handicapper. That's all. No superstitions. If you want to go wear your team's shirt, your lucky shirt, have at it.
Really?
Because if you do these, if you face the remote one way, you wear your jersey, whatever, it's also not going to change anything either way. So you can knock yourself out, have your fun.
But if it works for that individual, you do it like Josh. His wife's you're absolutely insane.
It didn't work for that individual. Yeah. That individual just did something, and then whatever the result was going to be was the result.
It's just Josh and his OCD. But Bukes, you're sitting there and you're watching a game. You're a New England guy. I don't know. Let's say Mac Jones throws his third pick of the first half. Do you take off your Patriot shirt and then maybe you go put on a Celtic shirt or something? Do you do anything
all these
insane
shirts
like
laying
that?
around his house for
That's true. Let me cross my legs right now, actually.
Isn't that bad luck?
If Mac Jones is throwing his third interception, I probably have already cashed a numerous amount of bets because you always bet against Mac Jones. So that would be the way for that. I will say my favorite superstition that I do see a lot is people who are watching sports games and they need the opposing team to miss a field goal. So they either
bring out the fan,
or they start blowing on the other side. They're creating their own wind to make them miss that field goal. So those are probably my two favorites that I like to watch, not particular partake in.
How about also, guys, is there that one person in your life who's a mush, who if you give them a play, it's going to lose, or if you invite him to the party, if you get down 3-0, they're going to complain and say it was a terrible pick. We all know those people in our lives, and we try to avoid them if we can.
Yeah, absolutely.
So those people exist. I'm sitting next to one. But
grow up.
They aren't changing the outcome of the games. It's just their attitude that becomes annoying.
I will say I'm sitting there and I'm watching Trevor Lawrence absolutely crap his pants. I will go and take off my Trevor Lawrence shirt and I'll go to the bedroom and I'll grab a shirt that I haven't washed in weeks that's just sitting on the floor I forgot to wash. I'll put that thing on and the next thing you know, Trevor Lawrence is completing a historic comeback against the Chargers in the playoffs. Sometimes it absolutely works.
I would be willing to make a large bet that if you didn't change shirts, Trevor Lawrence still would have completed that comeback.
Yeah, I was reading about this because producer Drew put this segment in. I said, well, let me do some research here about some of these ridiculous superstitions. Did you know that in some cultures, Steve, it's believed that entering through the front door of a casino could transfer the bad luck of the people leaving onto you? And that belief, Steve, is so powerful that in 1998, MGM decided to change their famous entrance because many customers felt that the door exuded bad luck.
What if the customers leaving had won big and they were good luck?
Well, I think you should. That's why I think you should be a people person. Talk to people. Hey, did you win or did you lose? Because I need your luck or I don't want your bad luck.
I do remember that, though, because it was a big lion's mouth, I think it was, for you to enter. And many people weren't entering that way because they considered it to be bad luck to walk through that. So they had to completely redesign the front of the MGM to get rid of that. But I do remember hearing that. But, I mean, it's true. I mean, I don't believe any of this stuff anyways. If I'm going to win, I'm going to win. I'm going to lose, I'm going to lose. But some people, like, really, truly take this to heart.
Okay, well, looking forward to seeing pics of you shirtless at the slot machines after this show, Steve, which does end at 10 o'clock Eastern time. We got a little more than an hour to go. It is time for another 240-second break, though. We've heard a lot from Steve, a lot from Josh out there in Vegas, a lot from Jules here in Boston. So let's bring in Jeff Fulrick and Pierce Dietrich of DraftKings Network for a fresh voice on how to approach betting Super Bowl 58 tonight. Hundreds of thousands of people expected to descend on Las Vegas throughout the week, and tonight, first ever Super Bowl in the Sin City, the entertainment capital of the world, is just doing what it does best. By the way, fun fact, we've talked about the game total throughout this show already. When the over hit last year in that Chiefs 38-35 win over the Eagles, it knotted the all-time Super Bowl tally at exactly 28 overs and 28 unders because there was no total set for the first Super Bowl. Prop bets, though, you can bet on nearly any aspect of this game. So let's talk to DraftKings Network's Jeff Ulrich and Pierce Dietrich here. Gentlemen, it is good to see you. Thank you for waking up early with us. Happy Super Bowl Sunday. Ulrich, I want you to start us off here, King. Hook me up with a Kansas City prop that catches your eye right now.
Yeah, let's keep it real simple. Travis Kelce to find the end zone. I really think Travis Kelce should be closer to minus 150 in this spot. You look at his career; he's got 19 touchdowns, 21 career playoff games. I mean, that's a ridiculous record, and yet we're still getting him around minus 110 for an anytime touchdown. That's good. The San Francisco 49ers lost their starting safety back in Week 11. Since that time, they've been starting a rookie. Last week, Sam Laporta, 97 yards, like 9 catches. I mean, they got absolutely shredded by him. I know he didn't find the end zone, but certainly Kansas City will be looking Kelce's way in this matchup a lot, and especially they'll be looking for it in the red zone. I think Travis Kelce is an extremely good touchdown bet this week. Really like him in that market.
Yeah, dude, he's up to plus 750 now for first touchdown score. I was pushing that on the show here yesterday. Yeah, dude, 11 catches and 11 targets for 116 yards and a touchdown against that dominating Ravens defense. What on the Kansas City side in terms of props interest you, Mr. Dietrich?
Well, I know my brand is usually to go with the Mahomes interception bet, but I'm not going to do it this time.
Whoa, coward.
No, I'm all in on Swiftie Mania.
Yes.
I've been consumed. I'm not going to fight it. I know some people are upset and they are frustrated with just embrace it, accept it. I'm all over Kelce, Swift, and I'll go with the receptions prop. Over 6.5 receptions seems like a real low total for, a game with the basic world revolving around Travis Kelce. How does he not get to these numbers? And again, he's their best receiver. You need the big player to step up. I want him, to have big game, win the game, and then get married after the game. I'm all in.
Yeah. You think he proposes after the game on the field after Kansas City wins?
Absolutely. I wrote about it in my article.
Oh, my God. That is why we like you. And that is a great time to tease. We will have, some physical props on the set coming up in the show that maybe has to do with Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. Nice little tease there. Hey, Pierce, if you did have to bet Mahomes interception, what would you do? Because, not Bukes, but Jules says go under half an interception.
I always say go over. I think he's an erratic passer that really takes chances. I know he's been on a bit of a hot streak lately by not throwing picks, but that just means he's due. Okay, well then on the San Francisco side, we mentioned it in this show too, Pierce, that actually Brock Purdy throwing a pick is one of the most popular bets on the board. What would be a San Francisco prop that you like? Yeah, let's stick with Purdy. And along those lines, he has struggled in the playoffs. He has not looked very good. And for the most part, he hasn't looked that great against top-tier defenses, and that's what he's going to face. And that's led him to run more. Last week, we saw him scrambling all over the place. He even rushed 6 times the week before that. And I like his rushing prop. Take the over, 11.5? That's really nothing. He exceeded this big time last week. And, I mean, you look at what Kansas City's going to do. You got a struggling young quarterback. You're going to put pressure. You're going to blitz, and that's what Kansas City already does. They're one of the top teams in the league, top 10 in terms of getting to the quarterback, second in sacks, second in pressure rate. They blitz at the 7th highest clip. They're going to come after him. He's going to scramble. He's going to run. I think the over on Purdy's rushing is pretty much a lock. All right, Jeff Ulrich. Who do you like over on San Francisco's side of the ball here, dude?
Let's stick with some Purdy props.
Okay.
I like some unders here. I like under Brock Purdy, 126.5 passing yards in the first half. What do you think San Francisco is going to try and do in this game in the first half? We all know what Kyle Shanahan wants to do. He wants to give the ball to Christian McCaffrey 20 times and keep this game close. You look at Brock Purdy's splits throughout the year, his yards per attempt in the first half of games is far, far lower than it is in the second half of games. That's because Kyle Shanahan wants to establish the run. He wants to keep things conservative. He wants to try and bully teams in the first half of the game and then just play it conservative throughout the second half. So, when he does get put in those pass first situations, sure, Brock Purdy can let it fly, and he may do that in the second half. And I could see him going for 250 yards and actually going over his game total, but going under that first half total. Like I said, I like this one quite a bit. I think, as Pierce mentioned, Purdy will struggle at points. I don't mind that interception prop either, but I'm going to go under Brock Purdy, 126 passing yards, 0.5, 126.5 passing yards in the first half.
All right, in terms of game prop, though, Jeff, what is on your betting card right now?
There's a couple things I'm interested in. Game props, we got so many to choose from, obviously on DraftKings. We're going Kansas City to have more first downs in this game. They're minus 105. They're actually the underdog here. The last 3 games, Kansas City has averaged over 22 first downs. San Francisco's rate has gone down. It's around 20. That's far below their season average. Brock Purdy has been less efficient. They've struggled with containing pressure more in the playoffs. Detroit got to them. They're lucky to even be here, San Francisco. Their offense has been under more pressure. The quarterback has been under more pressure. Whereas the Kansas City team, they're going up against a weaker rush defense right now. Mahomes is playing at the top of his game. Travis Kelce's coming in rested. I think Kansas City gets more first downs. I think they control the ball more in this game. I like this one. Like I said, Kansas City is the underdog at minus 105. I like that. Kansas City to have more first downs.
All right, Pierce, what do you think here, dude?
Yeah, let's go with Kelce. He likes to shine his light on people, and so maybe the spotlight's going to shine on him. If he gets the tight end receiving record, I think it's plus 800 for him to go over 134 receiving yards. If this is the big game and everything revolves, possibly the biggest game of his career. He's never had more eyes on him, more attention. I expect him to show up in this game, and I expect Kansas City to feed him the ball. So, and even if Kelce doesn't set the tight end receiving record, you still have kind of a backup plan in George Kittle. It's not, out of the question that Kittle could, upstage at least our tight end today. So take Kelce to set the tight end receiving record.
Pierce, give me your game bet du jour here, dude. We all know how good the Chiefs have been as underdogs throughout the season, especially the postseason.
Game bet wise, I'm going to take Kansas City in the money line. I recommended Kansas City in the money line last week. I also like the Lions, although they didn't win. They covered the spread. And my whole plan or approach, as you know, was to lean in with my heart and less with my head. And it seems to have worked last week. And I think that's the correct sentiment again this week. Like, if you look at the numbers and you look at the matchups, then the Ravens should be in the Super Bowl, and the 49ers should have blown out the Detroit Lions. But this is the Super Bowl. It's a different game. It's about execution. It's about limiting the mistakes. It's about gritty teams that just win, like the New England Patriots and the Kansas City Chiefs. Take the Chiefs, take the money line. They will get the job done. Yeah, maybe the San Francisco 49ers match up better on paper, but this is not on paper. This is a game of X's and O's and execution. I like the Chiefs coaching staff. Mahomes just gets things done.
Jeff Ulrich, the floor is yours.
You know how I love to go against Pierce and just shoot down his silly ideas, but I'm not going to do that here. It's Mahomes, it's Andy Reid. He's on the right side for once. He's got Taylor Swift red on. Let's give him some credit. He showed up. Good job, Pierce. Let's take this a step further. If you're not happy with plus 100 right now on the money line, you can get Kansas City on the alternate line at minus 2.5, plus 122. I really don't think you should be afraid. I really think Kansas City should be the favorite here. Billy Walters thought that too, so I guess I'm in good company. Not that that means anything, but I like Kansas City in this game, and I think they win straight up.
All right, this is what I'm very excited about now. Talking novelty props with you guys. Jeff Ulrich, what is atop your novelty prop list right now? Let's go. Hook me up.
If you still have access to the Anthem bet, the under is where we're going with Reba McEntire. I've watched all her YouTube videos this week. Her longest performance was 89 seconds. Every other single one was far shorter than this. Reba McEntire is going under 90.5 seconds for the Anthem. I also like Jordan Spieth for a cross-sport prop. Round 4 birdies. Minus 105. Jordan Spieth to have more birdies than field goals made in this game. We got the waste management. Spieth's in contention. He's playing well. There's a bunch of short par 4s and par 5s. Let's go. Jordan Spieth.
Yesterday was
more birdies than field goals in this game.
Yesterday was insane out there at the waste management. Pierce, go ahead quickly, my friend.
Somehow Jeff has done more research than me, and I wrote the Novelty article at DK Network this week. I am impressed. You know, the scoregami is always fun to play, and that's a score that's never happened in an NFL game, so you can try to hit that one. It pays out big, probably not going to happen. But the Gatorade bet is always the best one to make. I did a lot of research on this week, and I just threw the research out and said, play orange because it's my son's favorite color.
Yeah.
There's also the possibility of purple because that's Swift's color.
Yep, it certainly is. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much.
I like the orange call.
And Jeff, wherever you are, I hope you're not a hostage. All right, all this talk about players. What about the coaches? Which dude has the edge? Why history is against Kyle Shanahan's pursuit of his Super Bowl title, the elusive Super Bowl.
You're watching DraftKings Network's Sunday pregame power-up.
Eyes around the world will be on Las Vegas tonight for Super Bowl 58 between the Chiefs and the San Francisco 49ers. And coaching rematches are rare in Super Bowl history here, guys. And that kind of makes tonight between the Chiefs and San Fran really that much more special. Kyle Shanahan and Andy Reid, they're going to be meeting for the 4th time. And guess what? Previous 3 encounters, Shanahan has suffered defeats here. You can see just on your screen how great Andy Reid is as an underdog, and then really where like Kyle Shanahan has struggled at times this year. And throughout Super Bowl history here, Bukes, there have been only 3 rematches between head coaches, so this will be the 4th. In the previous 3 instances, and we mentioned this last week on the show with Femi, the coach who won the first Super Bowl also secured the victory in the second. So who would you say has the edge right now between these two guys? I mean, that does mean something, Steve. It does. It's straight up history.
Okay.
Okay, what? That
does absolutely nothing for me.
Okay, I'm just talking.
Why would I use any of that type of information when betting this game?
You're not going to use the information of just Andy Reid's dominating history against Kyle Shanahan. I'm just asking you, who do you think has the coaching edge here? You don't have to get all sassy on me, bucko.
I'm not getting all sassy, but give me the useless. Don't tee me up with useless information.
It's not useless information.
Okay, I'm the analyst. Useless information.
Analyze it.
I will say though that like coaching advantage, you have to give it to Andy Reid when it comes into this situation. And we heard about this stat a lot during the playoffs for the 49ers too, and how bad Kyle Shanahan's 49ers have been, or just Kyle Shanahan altogether, when they are trailing by at least 5 points in that 4th quarter. They're now 1-31 on the year in that situation. We have Andy Reid coming to this game, 2nd most playoff wins in history, trailing only Bill Belichick in that realm, who has 31. So obviously I think Andy Reid has the big coaching advantage here. This has kind of been a situation that the Chiefs and under Andy Reid has thrived in, so I would give the advantage to Andy Reid in this point. And then, like I keep trying to drive home here, that 49ers team just looks so unbelievably and vastly different when they're trailing from behind, and I think that's what we're going to get in this situation here, which is why I like the Chiefs a lot here. So I think Andy Reid has the big coaching advantage in this game.
Josh, are you buying into like this coaching narrative that's been pushed throughout the media like all week long, really the past 2 weeks here? Kyle Shanahan says, I'm not really like paying a whole lot of attention to it, but let's keep in mind, it took 21 seasons for Andy Reid to finally win a Super Bowl, and now he's seeking his 3rd win, 3rd title in the last 5 seasons. Maybe this could be a breakthrough opportunity for Kyle Shanahan. It is an opportunity for him.
Certainly an opportunity. Steve told me not to say yes to this answer, but I will say yes because I do think the coaching matchup does matter, and I'll give you a couple reasons why. Number one, let's look at Andy Reid off a bye. This has been one of the go-to spots for sports bettors for a very long time with Andy Reid. He kills it with extra time to prepare, 21-3 now, I believe, overall. You also look at just the dog versus favorite angle. We always talk about Patrick Mahomes 10-1 ATS as a dog, but in particular, Andy Reid, he was getting it done with Alex Smith and with other quarterbacks in his career, particularly with the Kansas City Chiefs. He is 25-13 against the spread as a dog, 66%. Let's go the other way with Shanahan as a favorite. 37-39 ATS. He has a losing record overall. Also, you look at Shanahan in big games. Obviously, we go back to the 28-3 game against the Patriots, where he kept throwing the ball. He probably should have just run it and chewed up the clock and would have had a win. I respect him that he can be bold sometimes, but sometimes, being conservative, it means being smart and not being too bold like Dan Campbell and going for it every time. So in these big games, Shanahan, to me, is the coach who's more prone to making a mistake. You also go, Steve, 4 years ago, they were up by 10 points in the 4th quarter, and you make some mistakes down the stretch to lose that game. So to me, if you're looking at, obviously betting on Mahomes as a dog, it's also in part betting on Andy Reid as a dog with the extra time, with the experience. And Emerson, you mentioned the stat about you win the first one, you win the second one. That also goes to like boxing and UFC. We talk to a lot of analysts here in fighting, and they'll say, when you have a huge rematch, usually the guy who wins the first one ends up winning the second one. The narrative is that, the guy who lost is really upset, he's mad, he's extra motivated, he'll get even. But no, typically the person who wins first wins second as well. So this is just more information to make me more confident taking the Chiefs +2 today.
Jules, experience no doubt goes to Andy Reid, but maybe like modern innovation here of offense is in favor of Shanahan, and how can he use that to finally get over the hump?
Kyle Shanahan's a great play caller. We've seen that in a large sample, but we've also seen in a smaller sample when the moments get big, it hasn't gone quite as well. Patriots, Falcons. We saw, even like you go to this postseason, they were able to come back and beat the Packers at home, but like that last drive of the first half, just refusing to be aggressive, grinding the clock. It turns into a really long field goal. It misses so that Green Bay doesn't touch the ball again before the half. Like, I understand that logic, but it's so passive when you have the better team. I would like to see him be more aggressive there. So yeah, one of the reasons that I'm on Kansas City in this game, and we haven't done that much game yet. We'll go through, why we're on certain sides, but like the coaching advantage is part of that. I think that the Chiefs are more innovative.
Steve,
I don't care necessarily as much about, I think what Steve was saying, Emerson, was like, you laid it out, do the previous results between the two head coaches matter? No, but like the reason Andy Reid has a good record versus Shanahan is because, yes, he has talented players, but also he's a better coach than Shanahan. So like it does play out to a degree.
Okay. I mean, do you want to remind everybody again kind of why you're on the under in this game then? I mean, we're talking about the great play calling here of Kyle Shanahan, this innovative offense here. Yet you don't expect him to put up enough points here to hit the over in this game, the total.
Yeah, lean under. Haven't bet it yet. I might bet it at 48 if that pops. I more have a side in this one, but yeah, under-wise, San Francisco should try and win this game by running the ball with McCaffrey. They're going to feature McCaffrey, I think, particularly early. They've tried not to put it in Brock Purdy's hands for 2 straight games. They just had to, given what the scoreboard was, and Purdy came through to his credit. But I expect Shanahan to do the same, lean on McCaffrey early, and the Chiefs have that matchup where San Francisco has given up $159 per game on the ground in these 2 playoff games. I think going to Pacheco early makes a lot of sense. And then we know the Chiefs in the second half, they're just not a second half scoring team. They've been getting by
2 weeks ago.
On defense. We saw what that defense did to Lamar Jackson in the passing game. I expect them to look good against Purdy in this passing game. So that pushes me towards the under.
Yeah, Steve, Jeff Ulrich just said in our last block that he's targeting a lot of Brock Purdy unders like in this game because he knows they're going to come out. They're going to want to run the football with Christian McCaffrey. And you've said multiple times over the past few weeks on this show, it's you get nervous when you see Brock Purdy playing from behind, don't you?
No, without a doubt, too, because he hasn't been making good decisions. He hasn't been extremely accurate during these playoffs either. You look at the 2 games against Detroit and Green Bay, he was 20 for 31 in pass attempts against Detroit. He was 23 for 39 against the Packers in that first game that the 49ers played during this postseason as well. He's just not making these good decisions, especially when he's been under pressure. He's really shaky with his feet. He's throwing across his body, and that's what's led to some of these really poor throws, whereas you have the best offensive weapon who can carry the ball for you instead, even though he has been carrying the ball a ton. If you remember, he only carried the ball 20 times in that game against Detroit, but he also left that game late in the 4th, had that, I think it was a head injury that he was potentially they were just kind of monitoring a little bit. We saw a little bit of Elijah Mitchell in the game near the end there as well. So I don't think they want to put this game in the hands of Brock Purdy if they don't need to. You have to realize too, for a team that has been putting up all these points, you're really hard pressed to find games where Brock Purdy is throwing for multiple touchdowns. It has happened numerous times where he's just had 1 passing touchdown in these games because they want to go and give that ball to McCaffrey. So I think they want to try to not keep the ball out of his hands as much as possible, but try to rely on McCaffrey in this game as much as they can, especially in a situation where they're playing with the lead, so they don't have to rely on Purdy when they're coming from behind, because that's what they've had to do really in both these 2 playoff games, and they just barely got by both those times.
Let's get some official game bets right now from you guys. And Josh, I know you don't love it, but you're on the Chiefs, right?
Yeah, this has been a conflict for me, a personal conundrum all week for pretty much 2 weeks here, Emerson. So the reason why I'm nervous is that the Kansas City Chiefs are the public play. I've had so many people DM me and talk to me and say, hey, you're the contrarian. Why on earth are you going with the team getting 65% of bets? Totally valid. That's not something I want to do.
That's not you.
It's not me. But you know what is me, Steve? Betting systems, baby. And all my betting systems are on the Kansas City Chiefs here. If you look at, again, Mahomes is a dog, 10-1 ATS. And every time I say this, people's eyes roll back and they're like, I've heard this so many times. That's a lazy narrative, 10-1 ATS. But you know what else is lazy? If you're on the Titanic and you don't look at the iceberg coming in front of you, that is Patrick Mahomes. What do you think about that? I think it's important here that you look at Mahomes in this spot. It's not just him. It's Andy Reid. Yeah, I'm getting a little bit annoyed by this, to be totally honest with you, because it's been happening all week. But anyway, not only is he 10-1 ATS, you have Andy Reid. We talked about the coaching matchup. Steve Spagnuolo defensively obviously has been great. I'm not a big fan of Shanahan here in big games, making the right decisions. But also you look at, in the situation, in the Super Bowl, in the playoffs, Super Bowl dogs are 13-7 against the spread. You also had a couple people that I really respect come out with their game bets. Billy Walters has Kansas City winning 24-21. Chris Berman has Kansas City winning 23-20. And then also, again, I'm going down the ship with the underdog angle because I just think from a mindset standpoint, I'd much rather be the dog that is expected to lose, that you can play the chip on your shoulder, versus the favorite who has all the pressure on them. And really in this situation, the Kansas City Chiefs are the team that can play free, that can play the no one believes in us card. And again, to me, this is a play where here's the thing, guys, if I bet San Francisco and I lose my bet, I cannot live with myself. If I bet Kansas City and I lose, I'll just say, hey, the Sharps got me on the other side. But I'm going down the ship. The iceberg is Mahomes, and he's going to cover this number, and they're going to win outright. Give me plus
so
2.
many Titanic references. What do you have against the Titanic?
It's actually one of my favorite movies. Yeah,
Yeah.
To be honest, Steve, this actually I'll keep that to myself.
Yeah, I was going to say
a Jack and Rose joke. Never mind.
Yeah, I know. We all know what your favorite scene is, Josh. Trust me, we've known you for quite a while.
Oh yeah,
we've known you for
Windows. You know it.
Oh my God, we gotta go to break. Steve and Jules, we'll get some official game bets from you coming up. But right now, after this break, we got to get back to the props department where Kelsey sits on Steve's betting card. We know he's buying into Swifty madness here, plus some novelty props. So stick with us here on The Sweat on DraftKings Network and VSiN. tons and tons of fun places throughout the week to enjoy all of the Super Bowl 58 festivities and activities. And I don't know, if you have $9,000 to spend to go to the game tonight, sure, have at it. Go live your life. But in terms of the week that was and all of the fun that was, well, on Media Row, Gojo and Golic had tons of guests, had tons of fun, and here's a quick recap of that.
From Sin City, Radio Row, Super Bowl 58 in Las Vegas.
I am available for any kind of paid appearances because I am already in the hole.
You and I both got to take in Super Bowl opening night.
This game is a sequel from 4 years ago. Do you have a favorite sequel?
Have you seen the Lord of the Rings trilogy?
Yes, I have. What is your favorite sequel?
Pitch Perfect 2.
You just became my favorite player.
What is the secret to winning Radio Row? Preparation is key.
He's saying you look 34.
I don't think anyone's saying that.
Get to talk football, and that's what this week is.
It's weird to me the way that people view Brock Purdy.
This whole idea that he's a system quarterback is ridiculous.
Starting to put the foot all the way down on the gas here at Radio Row.
You hear my voice? I've been going out since 5:30 this morning.
This is a crazy week to be around.
Justin, how's the week going for you so far?
I'm excited to be here.
Puka Nacua, the Rams star rookie wide receiver.
I was going to ask you if you remember me as a teammate.
I remember him very, very distinctly, yes.
Super Bowl's in your backyard right now. You're king of the hill.
There's a lot of things going on around the city, so it's just great to see.
It's a piece of art, what you guys are making every day.
We're making art here every weekend on The Sweat, and hopefully you caught them all week. And just a programming note, Gojo and Golic will be back at their regular time slot, 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. Eastern Time here on DraftKings Network starting tomorrow morning. That's the same time we are at every Saturday and Sunday here on DraftKings Network and VSiN. And Golic, Mr. Golic's going to be on the field for the call tonight. He'll be on the field post-game for the celebration. Maybe he lands that exclusive interview with Taylor Swift, Steve Buchanan. And speaking of Taylor Swift, we'll talk some Travis Kelce props here in just a moment. But I wanted to show off these fantastic friendship bracelets here that a die-hard fan and viewer of The Sweat sent in. And yes, Steve, we have one for you. So yours
This didn't actually happen, right?
This actually happened, yes. So real quick, mine is glizzy. Mine has glizzy on it because of my love for mechanically separated tubed meat, also known as hot dogs. Steve, Windy Unders is yours. Ooh. Windy Under. So this will be waiting for you when you arrive back in Boston tonight after you watch the Super Bowl on your flight, which sounds exciting. Josh, Flannel Lover. Flannel Lover is on your
How is not all systems?
You know,
it's not all systems go.
Yeah, that'd be good. But listen, our diehard fan, she knows this show. This is not me. I did not make these, okay? Yeah. She also knows that your dad hates flannel, so this would not be his friendship bracelet. And Julian, maybe the best for last, sack of potatoes. Sack of potatoes on his, here, put your hand out. Yep,
my
there we
personality.
go.
Thank you very much.
It really is your personality. We all,
you know what? I was out on this, but now I'm 100% in.
Sack of potatoes. Dude. I will, this now just reminds me to maintain my sack of potatoes level of intensity.
That's right. That sack
my
of
entire
potatoes
life.
figure. So
you can hear the excitement in my voice.
Shout out again to the wonderful fans of this program, The Sweat. We absolutely love it. Sorry I couldn't give out my own personal address. But anywho, let's get back to this game and the friendship bracelets. The boyfriend of the young lady who made these popular around the planet. So Travis Kelce, and then you have Deebo Samuel. These are two dynamic playmakers on both sides for both teams here, Steve. So in terms of wide receiver props, I know there hasn't been a whole lot of talk about Deebo, but could you actually get him at some pretty decent numbers right now, considering everybody is healthy on that offense and everyone's going to be involved? So maybe he's flying under the radar a little bit, or no?
I actually think he is, because we've talked about on the show that, like, George Kittle's numbers, and even this morning, like, just continue to climb. Like, he's at 50.5 now for his receiving yards. And I was a proponent that I was like, hey, I like the over when this first opened, because I think it was at 43.5. So, like, we're talking about almost a 7-yard difference from when it opened to where it is now. And, like, now to me, it's getting too high, because if really anybody has taken a step back from when Deebo has been healthy, it's been George Kittle. Now, that being said, I like the pass and rushing yards that we did for Mahomes. You can also do rush and receiving yards, and that's what I like for Debo in this game. It's currently set at 80.5 rushing and receiving yards. This is the number he's gone over in 10 of the games that he's played so far. 10 of those games that he's played, he's also had at least 2 rushing attempts. Like, they like doing those with him sometimes, and he's been a pretty efficient runner too as well. Like, if you look at some of his results when he's been rushing the ball, earlier in the year he had 3 rushes for 35 yards against the Washington Commanders. He had 1 rush against the Rams for 11 yards there, so just another way to kind of gain some of those yards. But yeah, this is someone I think is in a pretty good spot here, kind of flying under the radar because everyone's going back to this George Kittle thing, but really both teams in this game have been really good against tight ends, and quite frankly, that's why I'm kind of a little weirded out that everyone is so into the Travis Kelce thing. Like, I know he's had some really good games so far in these playoffs, and he's done well in the playoffs, but matchup-wise, this is not a strong matchup for Travis Kelce. If I end up losing that bet, so be it. I'm okay with that, but I do like Deebo Samuel a lot here with his rushing and receiving yards in this game.
All right, Josh, so much talk about Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift here. Kelce, the most bet for first touchdown scored tonight, and that number's ticked up to plus 750. It was plus 700 yesterday. Are we talking about the wrong tight end, though, here?
Great question there, Emerson. You know, you're going to get an awesome payout there for first TD score. I would rather go anytime TD with Travis Kelce. It's minus 105. Obviously, you'll kick yourself if he does score the first one, but you'll still cash anyway. But really, to the point of, you know, which tight end are we looking at? I agree. I think, to me, with Travis Kelce, the fact that you're only getting now, 68.5, 69.5, somewhere around there. He's averaged 98 receiving yards his last 12 postseason games. You know, I'm going to go down with the ship with Kelce going over this one as well. But in terms of George Kittle, Steve mentioned it. He's been getting consistent steam all throughout the week. You know, he was at 46.5 when we got to Vegas earlier this week. He crept up to 47.5. He was 49.5 yesterday. Now he's 50.5. Not only is he 50.5, but the over is minus 120. So he's been significantly bet up, and it's still juiced up. Like, maybe even if you get a bad over 50.5, you might still get some closing line value. Could close at 51. And again, it's a buy low play. He only had 2 for 27 against Detroit last week. But remember, he did have 4 for 81 against Green Bay. And he did light up Kansas City a couple of years ago for 98 yards. So I do think Kittle is a guy that, you know, reading the market, is getting a lot of action here. And also throw this at you guys, Noah Gray. I mentioned this yesterday, but Noah Gray quietly has gone up a little bit. He was 12.5. Now he's up to 13.5. So all these tight ends, I think you make a case for them. But in particular, you know, obviously the attention's on Kelce, but Kittle and to a lesser extent, Noah Gray are getting hit to the over as well.
And Jules, as for like wide receivers, though, here too, we know Travis Kelce is the top target and most trusted by Patrick Mahomes. But after that, you know who's not very far behind is Rashee Rice. And his performance in the latter half of this season, it's been remarkable. He's got that ability to turn games around here, and he's becoming one of Mahomes' favorite targets. He's easily a top 2 target for him.
Yeah, I don't mind Rice. 68.5 yards. I'm not going to wind up doing anything with it. You're in the same ballpark as Kelce, who's a yard higher. I do like Kelce. We've talked plenty about that, but he's over in 12 straight playoff games. He averages over 98 yards per game in those 11 targets against Baltimore. He caught them all, 116 yards. You see the relationship he has with Mahomes. You see that Sam Laporta, a rookie, in a game that Detroit was winning for the majority of the game in the second half, trying to run out the clock. 9 grabs for 97 yards last week. So Kelce is the way that I'm attacking the Kansas City receiving stuff. And then Steve mentioned Debo. Yeah. I think Debo will be heavily involved. I don't mind unders on Ayuk. These deep ball receivers have not fared well against this Kansas City secondary. I really like this Kansas City secondary in the way that they're playing right now. I think there'll be other focuses of San Francisco's offense. I haven't bet it. I would look for an under on Ayuk yards, Ayuk no touchdown, a Kelce to score before Ayuk head-to-head, anything like that fades Ayuk and backs Kelce, I'm down with.
Hey, Bukes, real quick before we go to break here, in terms of novelty props, depending on what state you're in, you know, the options there to bet some of these fun, really non-game specific bets are out there. Is there one that you like right now? Is there something that looks really fun to you that you would target?
Yeah, so they have a couple here that you can do. They have like the jersey number of the first touchdown score. The over-under is set at 22.5 here. I do like the over on that 22.5. You're getting that at minus 115. It's even on both sides here. But, just kind of think of some of the guys who are in the mix here. Obviously, Kelsey is in the mix there. Kittle's in the mix there too as well. So just getting that over 22.5, especially if you like it to be a receiving touchdown, that's probably the way that you want to look at that one.
All right. Anything for you, Jules? Because
we
know Josh yesterday mentioned.
I'm a sack of potatoes. I'm not a huge novelty props guy. Those would be way too much fun. Everybody else has these like colorful bracelets. Mine's just all black, no color, no personality.
Do you notice the color is very similar to the color of potatoes, especially a sack of potatoes?
Right, potato is one color.
Their potatoes are black.
Well, when they get rotten,
when they get rotten like
some
me.
of your betting
all right, I'm gonna be rotten here. No novelty props, no fun. I will break down the side that I am on for the game later in the show.
All right, coming up next, you know who's great to talk to about all of these bets? How about the face of DraftKings Sportsbook? That's Johnny Avello. Josh and Johnny together again after the break.
Welcome in. We're very pleased to talk to Johnny Avello of DraftKings Sportsbook. And Johnny, first off, how you feeling? Are you excited? What's it like as a bookmaker going into a huge game like this? Is there anxious anticipation? Are you excited? How are you feeling right now?
Well, I'm actually excited for it. I really am. I mean, so being in this business, Josh, for 38 years now, you would think at some point, you'd say, okay, is it time to go home? Look at your watch. Can I go? I haven't looked at my watch for that entire 38 years. So for me, every day is exciting. Super Bowl's just a little bit more exciting.
Well, I'm right there with you, Johnny. And I think, I've just a few questions for you because I think a lot of people are curious. From a novice bettor standpoint, this is supposed to be expected to be the most heavily bet Super Bowl ever, the most popular Super Bowl. We don't have to get into Taylor Swift stuff, but this is just a crazy pop culture moment. And with legalization, a lot of people are getting into betting for the first time. And I wanted to ask you, I think if there's a question out here, if the Chiefs have Patrick Mahomes and they have won the Super Bowl and they're this great team, why are they the underdog? Can you take us into how you set lines, maybe mention power ratings, and just why I think a lot of novice people on the street are saying, why are the Chiefs a dog? Can you explain how you got to the number?
And it is a power rating, so let's talk about what a power rating is. In simple form, a power rating is your offensive and defensive production and some intangibles in there. And a lot of that's done now through an algorithm. I used to do all of those manually, so now they're
pen and paper. That's changed over the years, yeah.
Oh yeah, and to be honest with you, I still do mine that way. But during the course of the year, those power ratings will change. And if you want to go back to somewhere around the midpoint season, when the Chiefs were struggling, if they would have played, and the 49ers also struggled this year too, but it was a point when the Chiefs were struggling, the 49ers weren't. And if you go to that point and then had this game that week, the 49ers could have been as much as a 7-point favorite in this one. But as we adjust those from week to week and get to this time of the year, Chiefs are playing better, power rating improved, 49ers power rating came down a bit. They're probably as good as they were, but things didn't work out as well as they did in the first part of the season. Those adjustments, we made those adjustments. We come up with a number of 2.5 on a neutral field. We put it up. We let the bettors take it to where they want to take it, and we're happy wherever they want to take it. And it didn't go far from the 2. It went from 2.5 down to 1 in the first 36 hours or so, back up to 2 shortly after that, and it's been at 2 now for a very long period of time, like 7-8 days. So I don't know where it goes from here. It probably moves one more tick. Not sure which way it's going, but I can tell you, based on where the money is, it may come back maybe.
Yeah, I'm really glad you said that, because I think to me this game in particular is so fascinating because of the back and forth line movement, as you mentioned, because again, you were 2.5, got down to 1. A lot of people in the industry were saying, hey, does it get to a pick 'em? Does it flip dog to fave in favor of Kansas City? That didn't happen, and when it got to when it came back. So, looking at the betting splits, which we're lucky to get at VSiN and DraftKings, right now 66% of bets are going with the Kansas City Chiefs. They're the popular bet. How do you balance maybe the public all over Kansas City, but yet it seems like there's some respected money on San Fran, which brought that line back up, even though the public is all over the Chiefs?
The bigger bets have been on San Francisco. The 6-figure big bets are on that side, and all the moderate to small bets have been on the Chiefs. We're not interested in balancing out the line. We just... Can
you speak to that? Because everyone's like, we want 50-50 action, and I've heard that books are okay with liability if they feel like they're on the sharp side. Is that true?
Yeah, it's for us. We're not handicappers. That's not what we do. We're odds makers. We put up a line, and then we let the public and everyone else decide where that line needs to go. And wherever that money falls, by the time the game starts, we're fine with it. But think about this, Josh. If you're in a situation, I'll use $1 million for instance. If you're in a situation where on a game you lose $1 million, but you win $1.4 million, that's a nice spot to be.
You profited.
So if you're in that spot on multiple games, that's how we make our money. We're not, juice works for us. We're not about picking winners.
That's fascinating to hear. A couple more questions just in terms of the total. We're pretty much sitting around 47.5. Now the public, obviously, in a game like this, there's a psychological bias toward wanting to bet the over. You're at a party, you're with your friends, having drinks, having a good time. You want to root for points. It's more fun to root for scoring. But what's interesting to me is, again, similar publics all over KC. They're all over the over. Around 64% of bets are on the over. But we're sitting right there at 47.5. Does it feel like there's some smart money leaning under? Do you think getting closer to game time we may get down to 47? Or could you adjust it upward? Just any thoughts on the action you're taking in on the total?
The unsophisticated money overwhelms the sharp money, usually on a total. And so you're right, the over has been bet, and the over will probably continue to get bet. We haven't moved off the 47.5, so we've been there, since the very beginning. My inclination is that this could get pushed to 48, because who wants a bet under with, and you mentioned it, with this cast of characters, right?
Last year, what do we have, 70-something points, so the recency bias of that might be a play.
Everybody in the game is a first-time, anytime scorer. So I think there's a possibility it makes it to 48.
Very interesting. In terms of player props, over the years they've absolutely exploded. It's a way for kind of recreational people to get into the market, bet some things. The coin flip. All these different options here, not just the bet of the game, but novelty things as well. Can you talk to us maybe about some prop bets that are taking in a lot of respected money? I noticed Brock Purdy, his rushing yards got bet up. I think it was 11.5 up to like 12.5. Kelsey's obviously a very popular player here in this game. What have you been seeing in terms of prop bet movement, and what does the public like to bet for props?
Well, first of all, remember, props are not new to us at Super Bowl. The extensive menu is not new to us at Super Bowl. We put this menu up every week on every game. A couple you mentioned, Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy has rushed for like 20, 30 yards his last game, and so Brock Purdy's capable of getting 11, 12 yards very easily. He's going to be in trouble at some point back there, and he's going to take off, and it just looks like he may end up with that. So that makes total sense to me, so I don't blame the bettors for being on that side. They've bet Mahomes attempts over. They've bet Purdy attempts over. Those are two that have certainly been bet. The touchdown score, that's always a really popular.
The first TD or just anytime TD?
Both. Really? Both. And the two guys in this game, McCaffrey and Kelsey, seem to be bet every week during the season. So here you have them paired together. So they not both can win, right? But they both can score a touchdown. And I've never seen touchdown scorer like McCaffrey, where you actually have to lay a huge amount of juice that for an anytime touchdown.
At one point there was a game, I think he was minus 300 anytime TD. That's incredible.
It's like the Tiger Woods in golf. I never saw anybody a 7-5 favorite before a tournament starts. Tiger Woods the only one, and that's kind of where McCaffrey is on the anytime scoring touchdown.
That's incredible. And just one last question, Johnny. It's great to get these insights from you. I think a lot of people on Twitter and just in the betting industry, they want to be on the side that the book needs. I think if you're in betting long enough, you feel like, and you'll see PR and people talk about, hey, the book really needs this outcome. You don't need it, but if we're saying if we want to be on the side of the book, what should we be rooting for, and what will be your ideal outcome for this game in terms of side total, money line? I know you have a lot of futures too here on San Francisco. Is that right?
No, futures were in good shape. A couple of our hazards, the Ravens were a hazard for us, the Lions were a hazard of ours, but we're in good shape on both of these teams. We do a little better on one than the other. So it's always good to have a couple of pluses going into this game, something to fall back on in case the whole game falls apart. Right now, we need 49ers. That could change. There's a few days left here before this game, so that could certainly change. There could be $2-3 million bets come in on the Chiefs. So I don't know where we're going to be at by game time. People always say, is it a good idea to be on the side of the book? Not necessarily. We're going to half the time yes, half the time no. It's better to have juice going for you as the book. That's what works for us. And I've said that, and that's how we make money. If you want to be on our side, that's fine. Right now you'd be on the side in Niners, but in-time game wagering, everything changes. Come game time, everything changes. Everything changes constantly.
Wow, Josh, now when you're watching the game at the airport tonight, after talking to Johnny, you'll have something smart to say to people sitting at the bar with you.
Exactly, yeah. Maybe give them some details on the game. But I just think it's awesome to be able to talk to an odds maker like Johnny, because we have perceptions about the game. We have our opinions about a game. But when you actually go behind the book and you get some real insights, to me, it kind of cuts through the noise. You find the signal there. So it was really interesting to me, Emerson, is that, the last question there, what do you need? Because on Twitter, you'll see people tweet, oh, the book needs this. And therefore, 9 times out of 10, I want to be on that side as a contrarian. You want to be with the house. But I think Johnny made a really good point. they needed, and that interview was taped a few days ago, they needed the 49ers because of all the popular bets here on the Chiefs. But does that change? I think Johnny said, and it's really important here, today is the day of the Super Bowl. Big bets are coming in. Do we see $1 million, $2 million, $5 million wagers come in on the Chiefs to balance that action? This is something you got to pay attention to. Look for the big bets today because that could move the number one way or the other.
All right, good stuff, Josh. Hang out, man. We got our final break coming up here. The first Lombardi Trophy, folks, awarded to the Green Bay Packers back on January 15th, 1967. After knocking off the Chiefs, who tonight try to win their second straight beautiful 7-pound chunk of sterling silver. Wrapping up the show after this.
You're watching DraftKings Network's Sunday pregame power-up.
Been a hell of a week out in Vegas, the home away from home for Steve Buchanan and Josh Applebaum. My sources out there are telling me the Strip is starting to look like Lord of the Flies a little bit. At this stage of the game, that's exactly what we would expect, but it all comes down to tonight, 6:30 Eastern Time, Chiefs and the 49ers. Bukes, what would you say your biggest takeaway was from your 3 months out in Vegas?
It has felt like it's been 3 months, but honestly, I gotta hand it to just the NFL as a whole. Like the things that have been out here that you've been able to do as a fan, the security that's been around here has been insane. Getting into Radio Row, I was telling a couple of people, there's more security at Radio Row than I think at the airport. Like it's been like they had bomb sniffing dogs before you even got into the parking garage. Like it was crazy, but I think the NFL like really went above and beyond to make this a big deal in Vegas. The people have come out. That was the craziest I've ever seen the Strip last night. Just going and walking around for a little bit, it's been phenomenal. But truly, I think like this is really starting to become a sports town, if you want to say, a sports city. Obviously, with Oakland coming soon, which is, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. But I just think that overall, I think the NFL really hit this one out of the park this week.
Steve, New England TSA sent a bomb-sniffing dog out there for the security festivities, a German short-hair pointer, yeah. So say hello.
Oh, that's what they were. I think actually I may have seen that dog.
It was the yellow lab I saw earlier.
I saw. Yeah, it was a lab and a shepherd. Yeah.
Yeah, and you guys are both big dog guys. What about?
Why do you know that? By the way, that's such a random thing to know.
My wife messaged it to me on Twitter because she knows I'm a sucker for dog content and stuff.
Oh, fair.
So Josh, besides seeing the New England TSA German Shorthair Pointer out there, what else did you really enjoy? What are you going to bring back with you here to Boston and tell people about for centuries to come?
Yeah, I just think, for me, it was a bucket list thing. I've never covered a Super Bowl, in person. I was able to sweat the Super Bowl a few years ago with Michael Lombardi at the Borgata, which was fantastic, and Thomas Gable. So that was cool. But just being at the site of it, the energy, the buzz, and you got to pace yourself from a personal standpoint. I would also say getting Ubers and taxis, not always the easiest thing. The traffic has been brutal, but I'm with Steve. The NFL has put on a really good production here. The Offspring was playing out in front of Circa last night. You had Lil Wayne. Wow. Celebrities are all over. And I would just say, one other thing, like it's a lot of Chiefs fans here. Like I feel like it's 70-30 Chiefs fans. Maybe you have 49ers fans. Obviously, they're closer here geographically. They really show up today, but it feels like a Chiefs town. Yeah. And I also think just from the 49ers, they feel like they're complaining a lot to me, complaining about the turf, complaining about the fire alarms. I think this is setting up for a perfect storm for the Kansas City Chiefs, which is another reason why I'm going to take them with the points today.
All right, guys, we're running tight on time here. Real quick, give me a name. Super Bowl MVP, Josh.
Mahomes plus 125. It's always going to be a quarterback here. Mahomes is going to win this game. So I'm going. I know it's square, but I'm going Mahomes.
Bukes.
Yeah, I think this is the running backs don't usually win MVPs, but McCaffrey or Pacheco, if either of those get 2 touchdowns and their team wins, I think that's going to end up being your MVP.
All right, and get us out of here with your no sweat bet, Steven.
Yeah, I'm taking the under in this game, under 47.5. I really think we're going to get an under in this game.
Mr. Applebaum.
Chiefs +2, Emerson. Yeah, I'm hoping this thing gets down to 1.5. But again, the iceberg versus the Titanic. Patrick Mahomes, the iceberg. Hopefully I don't fade away and freeze on that piece of wood in the ocean here by going with the Kansas City Chiefs.
That'd be unfortunate.
Hey, maybe you can find someone in the airport to draw you like one of Jack's French girls, okay?
Hey, my God.
That would be pretty cool.
You two, fantastic work this week. Thanks for grinding for us here at DK. Safe travels back to Boston, and we have your friendship bracelets here waiting for you upon your arrival. Love you guys. Thank you so much. We got to say goodbye to you now because, well, Super Bowl in the Strip, Jules, getting kind of wild. And Steve and Stormy earlier this week delivering 21 facts that you need to know about Vegas and today's game.
Welcome to Super Bowl on the Strip.
We're taking a spin around Las Vegas, dealing out 21 facts you need to know.
Let's get rolling. Starting at 1, this is the first time Super Sunday is in Sin City. Damn snake eyes.
While 2 isn't great in craps, it is the number of titles claimed by Vegas in 2023 by the Aces and Knights.
3 of a kind, as the Chiefs go for their 3rd Lombardi trophy in the last 5 years. 4, as in inches of rain annually in Vegas.
As the 49ers look to end their 29-year title drought. 5 is for studs.
Specifically, the 5 first-team All-Pros on San Francisco.
6 6. Vegas consumes at least 60,000 pounds of shellfish daily.
What? That's a lot of damn shrimp.
Bingo.
7. Lucky for both these teams because they drafted Brock Purdy and Isaiah Pacheco in that round.
It's love, brother.
Speaking of Mr. Irrelevant, 8 quarterbacks were taken before Brock. That's pretty crazy. 9.
The Niners.
Or $9,000 being the average ticket price to get you into the game. 10.
Minutes. The average wedding ceremony at places like the Little White Chapel. Just ask Stone Cold,
Ben and Jen,
Michael Jordan,
and more.
11, where 1100 is the address of this Vegas 7-Eleven.
And also the number of years Andy Reid has coached KC. I wonder if he stopped here.
There's an In-N-Out burger right across the street.
12. Are you ready for it?
Taylor Swift has 12 known exes.
That makes Travis her lucky number.
13. What the heck is 13?
14. The number of playoff wins Patrick Mahomes has. He can pass Peyton with win number.
15. The number in thousands of miles of neon tubing that lines downtown Vegas.
16. Hit or stay. 49ers legend Joe Montana decided to hit the road and join the Chiefs, racking up 16 postseason victories between the two franchises.
17. The deficit the 49ers had to rally from to beat the Lions to get here.
18 is the number of acres covered by one of the town's newest attractions. 19. The number of years a team has repeated as Super Bowl champs since the Patriots beat Andy Reid's Eagles. 20. But you can slip your concierge at the hotel.
That trick can get you an upgrade, and nobody knows more about trick plays than the Chiefs.
Having attempted the most in the league since 2018. Blackjack finally 21. The number of consecutive points the Chiefs scored to beat the 49ers in Super Bowl 54. I feel like I learned a lot. You should hit the town.
Let's do it. I'm feeling lucky.
Don't you feel wiser after all of those fun facts that Steve and Stormy just delivered to us?
I rarely feel wiser after hearing Steve Buchanan speak.
Well, this may be one of those rare times. So you're telling me there's a chance. And you're telling me there's a chance who could win Super Bowl MVP tonight? Let's hear it.
Well, so the one thing I'm never going to bet, and I almost did this a few years ago when it was Rams and Patriots. I almost bet Tom Brady Super Bowl MVP instead of Patriots money line to save myself like 20 cents of juice. You may remember Julian Edelman won Super Bowl MVP. Very glad I went Patriots money line. So there's no point to bet Mahomes plus 125 Super Bowl MVP when you can get the Chiefs plus money to win the game.
Okay,
Just
good advice.
Bet the Chiefs to win the game. So if I like Kansas City and I'm going to bet an MVP, I would have given it to Kelsey in the AFC Championship game over Mahomes with how he played, but that's very hard to do, even though, you know, Edelman did it. You had Deion Branch win one with the Patriots against the Eagles. It's tough to do. So you have to go in another direction with the team that you like. I would go with, Pacheco at anything 20-1 or better.
Yeah, he's at plus 2,500 right now on the DK Sports.
So 25-1, again, it's probably going to be Mahomes if Kansas City gets there, but if it goes in another direction, it's for the running game, and I would go to Pacheco, who I like a lot.
Would you go any deeper down the board for a potential long shot, maybe just to sprinkle a little bit in case the game kind of just blows our mind a little bit?
If you like the 49ers, you can look deeper down the board.
George Kittle plus 6,000. Brandon Ayuk plus
What's
6,000.
Debo right now?
Debo's plus 2,000, so he's shorter than
so
Pacheco.
I'd go same range as Pacheco, maybe Debo if you like the Niners. But if you like the Niners, you can go Purdy too at 2-1. You're getting the quarterback of the favorite at 2-1 or better. That's pretty good if that's the side you like.
Yep, quarterbacks top of that board. No surprise there, considering quarterback wins it a majority of the time. So we were talking in the commercial price. Said, hey, I need your game bet. And you say, I'm giving my game bet. It's actually my no sweat bet. So now combine the two. Let's go, sack of potatoes.
All right, thank you. I'll try and bring a little bit of energy to this one. I'm joining the guys on the Chiefs, and I know Josh gets all hissy and talks about the Titanic if we're talking about the lazy narrative of Mahomes.
A lot of Titanic
10-1-1 ATS as a dog. I'm not going to say it's lazy. We just all know that. Like, would I bet against Mahomes as a dog? Yes, in the right situation, if it was the right matchup, the right team. I don't feel this is that. I think that quarterback is one of the many reasons I like Kansas City. Huge quarterback advantage in terms of talent and experience in this game. That's undeniable. That's one of the reasons that I like Kansas City. But we talked off the top of the show. I like the coaching advantage for Andy Reid over Kyle Shanahan. I love the defense advantage. This Kansas City defense is ramping it up. The Niners are slipping in the postseason. Huge advantage on defense, and I like Spags calling the defense for Kansas City. Special teams. If this game comes down to a kick, we're getting 2 points with the Chiefs. Butker, much better kicker. Moody, the rookie, we've seen him missed some big kicks. So, and then game script wise, if Kansas City gets out to a big lead, I don't think Brock Purdy's going to, for the third time in a row against the best defense he's seen yet, have a comeback. If it's close, tight game, first, we're getting a couple points. Second, I trust coach, quarterback, everything with Kansas City more to make the plays that they need to make down the stretch. And last, I hope it doesn't come down to it, but if trailing, Mahomes won the fourth quarter of the Super Bowl last time against the Niners, 21-0. They can make that comeback. You have the quarterback to make the comeback. Chiefs +2.
There it is. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for hanging out with us all weekend. Enjoy your Super Bowl Sunday. Gojo and Golic back here to recap all the fun we witnessed tonight in Vegas, 8 o'clock Eastern Time tomorrow morning on DraftKings Network.